And we are live. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when or where you're watching the show. This is the Healthcare Leadership Show with Marion Spears Carr. That's me. And I'm glad to be with you on this Tuesday. And I'm really excited because it's one of my dearest friends in the space of recruiting and someone who I've known since 1994 or 93. I think we go back to maybe 92, if I'm not mistaken. And over the years, I've learned that Tammy and I have something else in common. Her husband's from my hometown in Concord, North Carolina. So we share a lot of Concord, North Carolina humor back and forth with her and her husband. But Tammy Hager is one of the top recruiters in the space of physician recruiting. She is the COO for Urology Locums and now Urology Search, a company that specializes in urology physicians. But more importantly, and I said this in the post about today's show, is if there's anyone going to write a book about physician recruiting, she wrote the book. Tammy, welcome to the show. Please introduce yourself better. We're going to talk about how you wrote your book and why, and who knows, we might talk about something else before it gets over with. Welcome to the show, Tammy. It's so good to have you on it.
Thank you, Marion. Yeah, we do go back a ways. And since you mentioned those dates, I was like, whoa, that's a long time ago.
A long time ago. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I started out in operations, which is kind of how you and I ended up meeting, and then got into recruitment, which is way more fun. But when you operationalize recruitment, I think that really helps. So that's, over the years, that's kind of what I've been doing. It's like, how do you operationalize things? So, I've had all kinds of different positions. I'm so happy to be where I'm at now. We have such a mission in how we look at how we provide urology across the country. So that's, it's a real passion to understand rural communities. I grew up in West Virginia, you know that. So when you grow up in communities like that and there's lack of access to care, that's really what I think my mission is, and the mission that we're doing is just how do we provide access to patients across the country. So not a glamorous, crazy life. Daryl used to be a minister. I've lived all over the country. I've met amazing people like you, amazing people like the folks that I've worked with over the years, and that's just kind of how this all became to be. So
exactly. And you and I have stayed in touch, and I've had the opportunity to work with you and some of your recruiting teams as well. And
they still reach out to me. Yeah, they still talk about you. Some of the great presentations and talks that you've given them. You've been such an encourager over the years, and I think they're grateful for that. And you still have folks that have worked for me over the years that reach out to you. So it's kind of amazing that we have that reach with people.
We do, and I'm very grateful and obviously very honored by that. So thank you for allowing me to be in your circle, Tammy. And by the way, this is called the Healthcare Leadership Show. And one of the most different things about and hallmarks of my show is it's a live show. If you're watching live or if you're watching the replay, post in the comments. Let us know you're there. If you're a big fan of Tammy, if you don't know Tammy, whatever, post in the comments. Let us know you're there. But what we're talking about today is Tammy released a book recently called the Physician Recruitment Playbook. And like I said in the introduction, if anyone could write that book, it would be Tammy. And Tammy, I want to jump into some of the things about the book, but one of the things that fascinates me, and I'm working on, and you and I've talked about this, I'm working on a book, probably two now. And I realized not too long ago that it was my ego and my ADD both fighting each other to keep that book from getting finished. So we got to work on that. But what was the driver that said, you know what, this book needs to be written? I would love for, and I know a lot of people have asked you that question, but I really would love to hear what you have to say about what was the motivation? Why did you do it? Like, because it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, and I didn't write it because I wanted to become an author. I think that's just a piece of it. It's kind of fun. But I really wrote it because as I've worked with organizations over the years, and then last year, starting at this company, it's just watching organizations kind of solve the wrong problems. So when you think about physician recruitment, it isn't just about filling vacancies. It really is, how do we improve access to care? And I've been doing this close to 30 years, either running practices or recruiting for practices in hospitals. So last year, I just sat down, and it was as I was coming on board here as the chief operating officer, and just started writing down my thoughts and my stories. I'm not an outline person. When I did my MBA, I didn't do outlines. I just wrote my papers. So I kind of just went through this process of getting it all down on paper. And then when I did that, it was just kind of rearranging things, rereading it. It was honestly about a 4-month process. I thought it would have taken longer, but it was about a 4-month process, just on the writing side. And it helps because so many people that I've worked with over the years, some of the stories that are in the book, it's all related to the people I've worked with, and problems we solved and things that we've looked at to try and improve, patient care. And that's really how it happened. It wasn't a planned thing. I just sat down one day and said, I'm going to get this done. So.
Well, good for you, and so glad that you did that. And by the way, as I said earlier, if you're watching live, we want to know it. Let us know in the comments. Gina Tipton is checking in from here in Gray, Georgia. Great conversation. She's fascinated by how you start writing and what motivated you to write this book. So she's going to jump in here. Chelsea's checking in from Orlando, Florida, and so she's so proud of you, Tammy. One of your fans, such an amazing accomplishment. Timothy Eggers is checking in. Oh man,
I love it.
There's Timothy. He's coming in from Florida, and Florida. Timothy. I apologize. I cannot pronounce the town you're in Florida. Can you pronounce it Oviedo, Tammy? Oviedo.
Well, you're talking to another Southerner, so I'm probably going to pronounce it wrong.
Well, I butchered
Oviedo. It sounds fancy.
I have no idea. Maybe Timothy can put it in phonetically in the comments. But again, welcome to live show here on LinkedIn. Tammy, one of the things you talked about, and you and I have talked about this a lot. Matter of fact, when you were in Missouri, or you live in Missouri now, but when you were in Missouri at Mercy Health System, when we talked about culture as being the driver, and not just talking about culture, but actually creating culture. And one of the things your book talks about from a physician recruitment perspective is how that's the foundation, that's the benchmark that's so critical. So when you go into a potential client reaches out to you and says, hey, we need X, urology. In the case now, it's urology, both locums and permanent. But over the years, you've placed every type of physician, is my understanding.
Exactly.
Culture drives how that match takes place and why that's so critically important. And to your point earlier, some of the things that's happened in the physician recruiting space is how commoditized it's been. It's like filling slots. But the impact and related to what you were talking about in terms of access is that connection to culture. What are some of the things you look at that when we think about an organization who needs to recruit a physician to serve a particular patient population in a certain location, what are some of the key things that you look for? And by the way, it's OVIDO. According to the phonetic.
Okay.
OVIDO. Thank you, Timothy. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. Martin Riley's checking in from Tennessee, and he loves working for Tammy in the book. So glad to have you, Martin. So to that question, Tammy, tell me about what you look for in culture specifically that drives kind of how you build your search plan, because I think that's a piece that a lot of people forget and miss.
It is. And it's been interesting working with just urology. Because it really has helped us focus on that specialty, but it's something that for all physicians you have to think about. As we bring on new clients, and again, we're more than locums. We're actually going through a branding change, so we're actually providing services for hospitals across the country as their urology providers. But one of the things that we do is we have a series of discussions with leadership, with the recruiters, with credentialing, with the folks that do the payer enrollment, to kind of understand all of their processes. How do they think But during that, we actually kind of understand how they are working with the physicians. Are they treating them as another number? If they're treating them as another number, then it's kind of like it might not be a good fit if that's what's going to happen, because really treating a physician as another number or filling schedules is not going to work. Really hearing how they care about the work that they do, what they go through every day, how many patients are they seeing, hearing about the burnout and what they're trying to do to solve for that. That is really what helps us understand. We've worked with over 400 urologists. That helps us understand as we're trying to fill some of these roles to stabilize these programs and then to backfill and help them with recruitment. Even stabilizing means having the right personality or the right fit in those organizations, even if it's a short period of time. So hearing how they actually treat their staff and their physicians tells us what kind of organization we're going to be working with. And culture, it's not built on, one person, it's built on the entire company, and every person is that company's brand.
Yeah.
So when that's coming across, you really understand this is going to be a great company for us to work with. And we have some examples. We have some folks in Tennessee, some health systems that we work with. We have physicians who fight to go work there because A, they're so good to work with. B, they care about the quality of the patients. They care about the continuity of care. They care about keeping those patients in the communities. And when you're hearing that, physicians love that, because it's not always the money that drives the physicians. It really is caring about what they do and being able to provide that care without the everyday pressure of the normal life that they live and practices.
Yeah, I think you could have written a whole book just on that topic. And so to the book writing piece, and by the way, Kelly's checking in. Kelly Fraser Johnson checking in from, she's checking in from Georgia, but she also, Tammy, just so you'll know, is from the Charlotte, Concord, Gastonia region in North Carolina. So she's a Sundrop drinker too. For those of you who don't know that soda, it's a North Carolina soft drink. Leslie Kincaid, one of your former team members who stayed in connection with me, she's checking in from Ozark, Missouri. Leslie, glad to have you in the audience. So when you talked about the process of writing, you started with just write, you just got to writing, you just went to work on it. You could have written a whole book on culture. You could have written a whole book on passive candidates, which you talk about a lot, and why that's so critically important in terms of how you go about it. But how did you determine how to balance the book from being just stories and culture or just focus on process? Because I think a lot of people have all this subject matter that they want to write about, but you can only do so much.
Exactly.
Book, right.
Exactly.
So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, as I thought about it, and then you can see the finished product, it kind of goes through a series. And then at the end, you kind of have all of the tools that fit with those different chapters and series. So that's kind of the way I thought about it. I knew I couldn't just cover every subject fully, because maybe that's additional books, or maybe that's blogs or whatever. But as I thought about it, I just kind of thought about it in the order of what I felt was important for organizations to consider. And that's how it actually just came about. That's why when I just wrote everything down and then reorganized it just so that it made sense, that's really how it came together. Just kind of based on that. So it all comes from leadership. And I think the main thing in looking at organizations, leadership drives everything. Leadership, without partnering with the recruitment team and those leaders, it's going to be tough, because the physicians are the revenue generating, people of the system. Yeah. Without recruitment, you can't have physicians. So really elevating the recruitment piece of it into leadership roles and how they should have a seat at the table is really kind of the way I thought about this. And then it drilled down to each of the other areas, if that makes sense. Yes. It just, it was just kind of the way I think through things. I'm kind of an abstract thinker, but then I actually like to put everything together so that it like fits. So that's why it kind of reads the way it does. And I've had people comment on that. They'll pull out something in the book, ask me a question, and then they'll actually go to the back of the book and they'll find the tool that actually goes with that. So people are using it for different things. My website, Hager, it's at Hager Healthcare Consulting. I have all of those tools on that. People are using pulling information from there because it's a free way for people to get some tools to work with. But I really did think about it, just from that perspective. There was no rocket science to it, I will tell you. There was a lot of drinking my Diet Coke and thinking through it, reorganizing. But without the culture and without the leadership, I just think organizations that don't have those two things, they're not going to win. They've got to start thinking differently and more strategically. And the strategy behind all of this really is the focus on the physician.
Yeah, I love that. And Gina, who's a colleague and hospital executive and nursing leader, who's just an amazing person in our circle as well. She's echoing what you're talking about. Culture, caring, and quality matter. That's where they align, and it reduces burnout in terms of the physicians. And Timothy's checking in. I really like this comment. It's like treating physicians like a number, which has been a lot of what's happened, particularly with employed physicians, with the change in reimbursement. I mean, RVU models that have changed and driven. It's become so commoditized. I use that word.
It is.
Yeah, it's why this solution that you're talking about is necessary, or why this approach that you're talking about. And one of the things I want to commend you on this, and this is Marion Spears Carr. I read a lot of books. I read a lot of, we've talked about it. You know what's funny, Tammy? I don't finish many books. I start reading a bunch of them. Okay.
I read a lot of it.
Right. But I read a lot of it. But here's the difference. And I don't my ADD doesn't kick in. I'm like, oh, I need my next book. If I get into a book and there's not something to do, a call to action or a use for that time reading that book. Now, granted, there's stuff that I read, just to read, like history, et cetera, sometimes. But even that has a call to action, which is to go deeper on that subject matter. But one of the things I like about your book is that it is accompanied with these tools that gives the reader things that they can go do, that they can put into practice. And those tools may be centered on physician recruiting, but if you're recruiting anything, you can apply those same approaches, the same ideas, et cetera. I would love for you to talk about that a minute, because I think, like I said, I read a lot of books, but if there's not a call to action for me or something I can go do or put into practice, then it's like, okay, I get this. I get it. Right.
Yeah,
but I
like now what am I going to do with this?
Yeah. Now what I'm going to do with it. Right.
Yeah.
Knowledge is great. Know a lot of stuff. Despite
it's funny. I know I'm not the smartest person in every room, but I will say it's kind of funny. Intuition is probably my biggest strength, and understanding talent. That's two of my biggest strengths.
Massive.
And when I think about what you said, I've had a couple of folks reach out to me and say, could you write this book for human resources? Could you write this book for IT? Could you?
Yeah.
The principles are all the same. The tools 100%. At the back might be a little different, but they can be changed based on the industry. It still all comes down to the candidate is the most important part of it. And what does that candidate mean to your organization? And when you look at it that way, and you have a culture that welcomes candidates, they try and figure out how to have healthy organizations. And that's one thing we talk about here at Urology Locums all the time. We want people that are hungry, humble, and smart. If you have a healthy organization, they're hungry, they want to do the work, they want to be successful. Humble means they don't put themselves first. It's the physicians, the company, their team. That's first. And smart, it's people smart. It's being able to work with people. and understand, what are their needs, and not always think about your next question, but truly listen to what's important to the people you're talking with. And I think it all comes down to this, and I think it can apply to any industry. So it's not rocket scientist. It's almost, what did you learn in kindergarten? And how do you apply it to your daily life?
Yeah. And I love your pull from a book that really influenced me a bit, was The Ideal Team Player, which is what Patrick Lencioni book on the humble, hungry, or hungry, humble, and smart. I'm not sure that. And by the way, in talking about not being the smartest person in the room, I can be in a room by myself, Tammy, and I'm not the smartest person in that particular room. So I totally get that. Totally get that.
You are not right.
But I know it's not correct. But it's true. I've got enough. I have so many multiple personalities that once I'm in a room, like, okay, there's somebody smarter. I don't know who it is, but I know there's somebody there. Sorry about that. I couldn't resist that. Leslie's got a good point. What you read Sunday night. Let me see if I can pull this up, because I think it's a good point. What you read Sunday night, you can put into practice on Monday morning. That is exactly right, Leslie. A book needs to be like that. It's, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. I mean, we can read for pleasure. We can read just to expand knowledge. But what's knowledge if we don't actually use it? I love that. Martin Riley, let's check in here. Martin's made a good point. And by the way, if you have questions for Tammy or comments, put them in the comments. This is what this show's about. This is not it's not a polished podcast. This is me and Tammy, longtime friends.
Look how polished I am with my Southern accent.
You're way more polished than you think you are. And by the way, for those of you who watch the show regularly, I have decided that I'm going to wear my hat, which is on my show, because, just because that's just why I'm doing it. So, but Martin checked in. He goes, Tammy's book has helped me better balance the sense of urgency, critically important, consistency, being consistent in your message, being consistent in the process, and using proven methods. Martin, I really appreciate those 3 points. We teach those as well on the executive search side, which is part of the work that I do. You have to, the sense of urgency is critically important. I'd love for you to talk about that, because there's so many talent, the battle for talent, really good talent that fits your culture, that fits the organization. You got to move quick. And if you wring your hands and talk about that, because I think the sense of urgency is really critically important. Martin, thanks for that comment.
Yeah. And we talk about that all of the time with our clients, because if it takes you forever to give us what that physician needs to be focusing on when he's working in your organization, we know right then that there's no sense of urgency. So when you think about there's 850,000 practicing physicians in the US. When you start breaking that down by specialty, you've got urology, there's less than 10,000 of them practicing in the country. 60% are over the age of 55. Hematology oncology, you've got about 11,000 in the country. So when you start thinking in those terms and the percentage of patients that aren't getting care, everyone, while they are competing for the same physicians, they're really not, because these physicians are going to go where there is a sense of urgency. When they are being sent for an interview, whether it's to talk through if it's a locums position or a perm position, if it takes forever for everybody to get back with them, they realize that's probably not the place I'm going to go, because if they can't get the interview right, is it going to be hard to work there when I'm a physician? Goes back to that culture thing. So the sense of urgency really does come down to the planning that's involved. Once something is planned, you should actually run with it and not keep changing it as you go, because that sense of urgency changes then. So it just creates chaos when there's just no plan, because if there's a plan, that sense of urgency can be there, and you can get people through the processes very quickly. You can be creative. You don't have to have everybody come on site immediately. Still do video interviews. How do they feel over the phone? Because some people, they've got multiple offers, but the people that are actually treating them the way they want to be treated, that's where they're going to go.
Yeah. There's a movie about, and I can't remember.
I'm a movie person, so.
Yeah, I know you know movies. You know, but it's the movie about Michael, the whole Michael Jordan shoe,
Yes.
Nike
Yeah.
thing, and one of the things talk about a lesson in creating urgency, very much focused on the needs of the person as opposed to this is what we do, blah blah blah, etc. That movie's great. Obviously, there's a North Carolina connection there as well. Everything North Carolina. If it's not Georgia, North Carolina, Texas, I probably don't know about it. That's just the way, that's just the way it is. But anyway, but to that point, right? Nike won that because the opportunity was much bigger than just a shoe deal, and they saw that, and it was about the relationship and the culture that they were going to try to create around this person. And when you think about it, and I, like you, Tammy, we spend a lot of our time recruiting in the rural communities. That's been a part of our niche, at least it has been for me and you as well. You work with big organizations as well, but that's a whole totally different game, right? Understanding
it is.
That's a piece. Chelsea's checked in. I love this comment. And Martin, I just got Air. Air is the name of the movie. Thank you, Martin. I should have. That's how bright I am. I'm talking about this movie like I know it, and it's Air Jordan. I mean, of course it's Air. Chelsea made a good point. Being humble is understanding you don't have all the answers, and the willingness to learn from others. I totally agree with you, and with you, Chelsea, and Tammy. I know that's been your style and approach too. Talk about in the last few minutes. I told you this was going to go fast. It always does.
It flew by.
Talk about why rural communities, because you started this conversation around access and why this is so critically important. What are some of the things that they need to be paying attention to when it comes to the physician recruiting market? Because a lot of my audience is in that rural space. We've been involved with the Rural Healthcare Transformation Program in a couple of different areas. I'm about to launch a program, our Authentic Gratitude program in rural Oklahoma. So there's a lot of different things going on. But last few minutes, if you could maybe a minute or so on that, and then let's talk about how people can connect with you. And we have like maybe 1 or 2 minutes. If anyone has a question, post in the comments. And if you watch the replay, we also look at those comments. So put a question there. Tammy or I will address it. But Tammy, talk about the rural health situation right now, and what are some things they can start they need to pay attention to immediately, and then we'll close on how to connect with you.
Well, in rural community, and again, I grew up in southern West Virginia. My daddy was a disabled coal miner. So if anyone understands rural communities and what that's like in southern West Virginia, I do. It really is. If you're in an organization that's in a rural community, it's not about how fast can you recruit. It's really understanding the candidates who want to live in those communities. There has to be some type of a connection, or they have to have a heart for doing that type of work. You're not going to get that posting a job on a job board. No. It's going to be intentional, passive recruitment. You're actually reaching out to people that already maybe live in those type of communities, or you can figure out that they have ties to those areas, because I think that's what's going to make those organizations in those communities smarter when they look at hiring the people who want to come, stay, and make a difference. A lot of folks, it's not about the money. The rural communities, a lot of times they do pay more, but a lot of times it's not about the money. It really is, do they have ties to that community? Because if they do, they're going to care about taking care of their neighbors and, being a part of, coaching their kids' teams and in those communities and helping to grow the healthcare field in those communities. And I mean, I've seen that. I grew up in Matoka, West Virginia. My brothers are still in Princeton. There's a large organization that's moved in and bought the hospital in Princeton and Welch. Huge difference now in the healthcare that's being provided there versus when I lived there. And that's how they're doing it. They're bringing people in who have, gone to schools and come back to practice in rural medicine. So it really is about the candidate.
Yeah, it's so good. And that's where, again, approaching it from let's just get a bunch of resumes. Let's post a bunch
Exactly.
of
There
stuff.
has to be a strategy behind each position that you're trying to fill, and it's not all the same strategy. And you have to know, where do these physicians hang out? I know urologists, a lot of them hang out on Twitter. So you learn how to tweet.
Didn't know that. I didn't know. I didn't know
thinking
that.
about, where do these folks actually go and hang out? So when you do things like that and think about those things and find them, you can connect in so many different ways. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, Timothy in the comments is making some great points on urgency, as how that's a true difference maker. But he also is talking about the why is important. And the interesting thing about the why part, I got my right around the time you and I connected originally, when you were up in Roanoke area, right? You were in Roanoke, but
I was in Roanoke with Corellia.
Yeah, you were with Corellia, and I was with this management recruit franchise we had started up with a guy named Neil Coleman, and didn't know what I was doing, obviously, and didn't know what I was doing. But I landed a search for a COO in a hospital in Chicago, and the CEO there was not the nicest of people, but he ended up changing my career, because when I asked him why he had not hired anyone for his job, he said, I can't find anyone that could tell me why their hospital was better because they were there. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? Okay, that's an interesting question. Why is your organization better because you're there? Well, what that grew for me is a focus not only on that part, but also why would it matter that you are there? Why are you better for being there? Right? Like, that became, talking about a tool for matching, when you can connect why their impact matter, but also why that organization will matter to them. Then now we're talking about placements that are going to stick. And so I really appreciate that. Tammy, how can people Leslie posted the big strategy around a lot of recruiting is posting and praying. We're going to post and pray that somebody sees my ad, and this is where I completely am convinced that everybody that's losing their minds in the recruiting business, that AI is going to replace recruiting for most of us, maybe down the road. But right now, that being intuitive, knowing the community, knowing the culture, finding somebody who wants to serve that particular, that's
exactly.
Good luck with that. Good luck with that. Tammy, how can people, we got to wrap up, but we're over time, but as always, how can people connect with you?
Lots of different ways. You can go out and find me on LinkedIn, of course. That takes you everywhere. They can email me either at work, really easy, thager@urologylocums.com, or my personal email is tammy@hagerhealthcaresolutions.com. And that will take them to they can go to my website there and look at all kinds of different things. I do work with a lot of recruiters across the country, helping them kind of understanding their roles, doing a little bit of mentoring, help them develop strategies on recruitment. How do they grow their career? So there's a lot of different things that I help different recruiters and other healthcare leaders. I have some CEOs that I'm working with right now. They want to change careers, and how do they do that? So I'm easy to get in touch with. So feel free to email me. You can, when we send this out, we can share my cell phone. People can text me. I'm okay with that too. It is on LinkedIn as well. So yeah, I'd love to talk with everybody.
Love to talk, and she will. She will talk to you. And if you want to connect through me, feel free to send me a DM or message me or drop me an email, or you probably have my cell phone too. It's on there as well. Text me and let me know, and I'll connect you with Tammy. Tammy, thank you for being on the show. For those of you who are watching the Healthcare Leadership Show for the very first time, I know that's the least creative name anybody could ever come up with for a LinkedIn live show, but this is the Healthcare Leadership Show, because Tammy, I think, by the way, just so you know, I think you're about episode 140.
Oh my goodness,
140.
That's
amazing. 140.
Well, and I want to thank you for having me today, because this has been fun, and you always put relationships first, and I'm just thankful for you, Marion.
Well, it's very kind, and I am as well for you. For those of you who don't know the show, check me, connect with me on LinkedIn. Watch for upcoming episodes. We've got a lot of, next episode is next week. You'll see an announcement on that. We're going to be talking about rural health with an attorney out of Chicago who is working in that space. I also have, coming up in August, I haven't got the date set yet, I have a CEO from North Carolina who's coming on board to talk about a program where they're taking patients who are unfortunately in situations where they're extended their stay inside the acute care environments, taking them out. I know it sounds so simple, but they're taking them out with, they call it a sunshine program, and getting sun, getting them outside, even though they've got these challenges, and they've reduced the length of stay dramatically just by doing that. So
wow, that's amazing.
That. Yeah.
That's
yeah,
creative.
Crazy. Very creative. And that's Jason Carter out of, he's at Durham Regional in North Carolina, North Carolina Connection. And at the end of this month, Scott Becker is going to come on to talk about his book. I see his book behind you. So that's what made me think of it, right beside yours. Scott was on my show January 6th, talking about the pre-launch of his book. He's going to come back on July 29th at 1:30 Eastern. That's a Wednesday rather than a Tuesday, talking about the lessons he's learned from this book launch, because it's been a crazy thing. So check the show out. Thank you for being on.
And
the show,
I will
Tammy.
say Scott was great with me as I was writing my book. So he was just so great to work with.
Fantastic. And there's we all have that kind of thread to connect.
We do.
Thank you all for watching the show. Hope you got something out of it. Let us know in the comments what you thought. Share it. Click, share, push this to your network. We want people to know about what we're doing. Tammy, thank you for being on the show. We will end the stream now. Have a great Tuesday, and we'll talk to you soon.